Letting someone or something go can be entirely motivated by selfish reasons, or distinguishing whether someone's suffering is prioritized or not. Sometimes selfishness is not necessarily a bad thing. If you have a lifestyle difference that isn't compatible with your current social group or in relation to somebody, you can't just accommodate for everyone's needs. But sometimes we override this logic because I think human beings are naturally possessive when it comes to something they authentically love or care for, like a pet. About 4 or 5 years ago, I talked about having to put my dog down, who was nearly 20 years old. She was a Labrador, and labs don't live that long. But sometimes I can't come to terms to forgive myself when it was time to go. The dog was experiencing CCD, which is canine cognitive dysfunction. She was staring at walls. She was getting stuck in the corners of rooms, which sounds confusing, right? You know why? Because she was confused. This dog had like doggy dementia. She was chronologically confused at this point. She was anxious. She was losing touch of her surroundings. She would stare at the bottom of a staircase, at the top of the stairs. Like she'll just stare at the bottom of the stairs, which was a high risk of her falling down. I mean, she's like 20. She could barely walk. She's practically blind. So the decision was, and it wasn't mine, my parents were like, we got to let her go. And that frustrated me so much. This dog grew up with me from elementary school, middle school, high school. She saw me go through my college years. This was my best friend. So my possessiveness started to kick in where I'm not in compliance with doing this. But I had to put my emotions aside because I understand several concerns here. This dog was having a hard time eating and drinking. There's a chance to dehydrate. Like, I understand that she was practically blind, so she was confused where everything was. She don't know where the dog food is at anymore. And as dogs and humans get older, right, your organs start to fail you. Kidneys start to go, your liver start to fail, and now we have a discussion about selfishness. Like, I like a Labrador living for 20 years is statistically an anomaly. This dog was different because I proved that I took exceptional care of this dog throughout her life. Her body was simply reaching its biological limit. Such is life. And if I kept her longer because of my personal comfort, it would not help her personal comfort because she's literally falling apart. And what would happen to me is that, and also actually rather, what would happen really if something were to happen to her? Let's say she's standing at the top of those stairs, staring at the bottom, and she fell down the stairs. Now I'm experiencing something traumatic, right? How is that going to affect me for the rest of my life? Or like, it would be traumatic seeing her have a seizure or organ failure, et cetera, et cetera. So when we discuss selfishness or selfishness versus selflessness in terms of letting someone or people go, it becomes, in my opinion, a simple interpretation that life is essentially a pendulum swing. You know, a pendulum, it swings back and forth, right? Let's put a picture if you don't know what a pendulum is, right? You'll have moments in life, or you'll have moments where you have a bond with somebody or something, like my dog, for example. You'll experience moments where you go through this pendulum swing and you meet the highest moments, but it is inevitable that you will reach the lowest point of the swing. But the suffering you experience, or it starts to experience, comes from attaching to something that wasn't natural to the pendulum swing. If you're at a rise, you're at a high point, the moment you start seeing you're about to fall off, or things are not going as great as it used to be, or how you memorized it, if you keep resisting because you don't want to accept the natural fact that all things rise and fall, you're never going to move on. Everything has its tides. Attaching to a moment or moments with somebody doesn't progress you forward. This doesn't help you grow. This even works with relationships or friendships. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice what we had, at one point at least. I mean, it's still nice. It's just, was it as like exciting, If you keep attaching to the memories of the super exciting parts in the beginning, you don't recognize the current now anymore. And it could affect how you feel or treat somebody else. Now that person who, you had really good parts with in the past, now you're a little bit irritated or grumpy with them. Like, it's like, what's it called? The honeymoon phase. Like, it's gone now. Or you feel like you're bored of somebody or something. The person you have good memories with, you just don't want to accept the fact that the pendulum needs to keep swinging. So you see that decline or that fall, and you get resentful over that person. And I was like, I don't know if we're compatible. I don't know if we're really friends like that. Maybe we just enjoy talking to each other for a little bit, Oh, you don't make me laugh anymore. Oh, I'm not excited to talk to you anymore or see you. I don't think you should be saying that to people, by the way, because that means you're overriding. Or I don't even think you should be thinking that, because now you're overriding the harmony between you and somebody else because you want to keep the pendulum swinging in one direction. To keep someone when they are objectively failing is different than attaching to what we once were. But we think something is objectively failing because we are attached to what we once were rather than the now. You're attempting to freeze time. You're attempting to freeze the pendulum in place. You can't do that. Well, technically you can, right? You could hold the pendulum up at the highest point, right? You could try to hold it up, and as a result, what's going to happen? Gravity, right? You're going to deal with the friction, aka this is where the suffering starts coming in because you're trying to stop the motion, the natural rhythm of everything. So when it comes to letting someone go or letting something go, always be mindful or question, well, am I willing to let someone go because I'm attached to memories or the high or the rise of us and it's not there anymore? Even though we don't have problems, like we're not like seriously, we're not like fighting or anything. We don't really have problems. Just, like we're not even mad at each other. It's just not at a high anymore. So, it just the pendulum swung down, or it's swinging down right now. So I just let them go because of that, even though there is no real issue here? Or instead, do I allow the cycle to return? You know how many times me and some of my closest friends, we don't talk anymore, but then we have moments or back-to-back days where we talk multiple times a day. That's the swing. That's the cycle I'm talking about. But the amount of times where I tried to freeze time and then I started to become annoying, I started to get needy, I started to get demanding, I started to obsess. This is also terms of romantic stuff too. I get scared of things going south, things falling apart. So I try to freeze the swing. I try to hold the pendulum up, right? Or force it to go in one direction. And I just keep experiencing friction. And then I start getting upset. Again, this is where I start getting needy and annoying. And then it starts hurting me mentally and then so forth. And then, so if I try to freeze the swing, all this stuff, all this does is just makes things worse, And I've been on the receiving end of this too. So I understand how it feels to do this to somebody and how someone does this to me. Like, bro, stop trying to force our friendship. Stop forcing us to be more than what we are right now. You're annoying. You're draining. And I know where this is coming from. It's because you're trying to do that. You don't like the swing is going down. Let the natural rhythm of life flow. If we were meant to be the closest buddies, or let's say we were meant to be together in some romantic way or something, or we were supposed to do business together or work together, it will happen through natural rhythm of coexistence. Maybe we'll play some games together today or tomorrow or a few days, but then we won't play games for the next few weeks. Sometimes you and somebody who you have let's say you have some affection for somebody, right? Y'all spend it all day and night chatting. And then the next few days or weeks, it's just light. Or very minimal. People got lives, bruh. Not everyone attaches to trying to control things. Stop forcing it and attaching to the high. And as a pendulum swings from high to low or low to high, you'll eventually get the high again. If it was meant to go that way. Because sometimes that momentum stops. Right? It swings up and then it just stops in the middle, or it just gets very slow swinging and then it just eventually it'll stop, right? And it doesn't swing anymore. And oftentimes it's because you were messing with it. And now it's stuck in place. You were like, oh no, kind of swing a little bit faster. You know what I'm saying? So maybe swing a little bit slower or tone it down. Like, why? You're forcing it. And then it's hard to get that rhythm back when it swings naturally. And if you want an analogy about like how this works in life, think about how many times where you had to start all over, right? It's easy when you have momentum, it's easy to keep going with something, right? But getting started is the difficult part. It's the same thing with this. Hopefully this makes sense. What do you guys think? I love you guys. I'm out.